World news. Boko Haram has been decapitated. That's according to Chad's President Idris Deby. For years, the militant group has been attacking both civilian and military targets right across northern Nigeria, as well as in neighboring Chad, Niger and Cameroon. Mr. Deby also believes that Abubakar Shekau is no longer the leader of Boko Haram, having apparently been replaced by a new man, Mahamat Daoud, who is believed to be open to dialogue with Nigeria's government. The BBC's Will Ross reports.
Boko Haram's propaganda videos have often featured scenes like this. Marauding gunmen unleashing violence in rural parts of Nigeria, leaving a trail of destruction wherever they go. Until recently, the videos also featured this man, Abubakar Shekau, the leader of the jihadist group. But he hasn't been seen since the group pledged its allegiance to Islamic State. And now a key figure in the region says there's been a change in the leadership.
Boko Haram.
I believe that Boko Haram, in terms of terrorist acts, may last a little longer, but Boko Haram no longer has the capacity to do damage as it did in the beginning, not against a properly equipped army. Today, Boko Haram is reduced to small groups scattered in eastern Nigeria and on the Cameroon-Nigeria border. I don't think the war will last a long time. It will be over by the end of the year.
Idris Deby said that Abubakar Shekau had apparently been replaced as Boko Haram's leader by a man called Mahamat Daoud, who he said was open to dialogue with the Nigerian government.
The Nigerian military has in the past claimed to have killed Abubakar Shekau, only for him then to resurface in a propaganda video. But the fact that he hasn't been heard of or seen now since March has led to a lot of speculation about whether he's still alive. The Chadian president didn't say that Shekau was dead. He just said that he was no longer in charge of the group. But how much faith should we put in what Idris Deby is saying about the jihadists?
Chad is heavily involved in the conflict. Earlier this year, its troops helped retake towns and villages held by Boko Haram. But Chad's also played a controversial role, with questions over possible links to the jihadist group and confusion over peace talks. That was last year when it was suddenly announced that a deal had been struck with the jihadists. We were told Idris Deby had brokered it, but the negotiations never succeeded and were written off as a money-making sham. Regardless of who's in charge of Boko Haram, the group is still causing havoc. The governments in the region need to somehow stop the frequent bomb blasts that have killed hundreds in recent weeks. Will Ross, BBC News, Lagos.
Well, with me now is Cameroonian analyst David Otto. He's with TGS Intelligent Consultants here in London and was just last week in northeast Nigeria where Boko Haram operates. David, is Boko Haram in its death throes, as President Deby will have us believe?
Of course not. You know, we have had this several times when, you know, the authorities have reported, you know, the decapitation of Abubakar Shekau. But what you get, you know, with Boko Haram, you know, now called the Islamic State of West African Province, is that, you know, each time, you know, this happens, you know, they come up with another strategy. So even if, you know, the Shekau is dead, you know, the Shekau is a mere title that is being used by anyone who heads the organization. So it doesn't make no difference.
The Nigerian military seems to agree with President Deby in the sense that it says the reason why Boko Haram doesn't engage in full-blown battle with it is because of a lack of personnel, and that's why it's now switched to these suicide bombings. Well,
that's the point, you know, but, you know, what you get is that, you know, as the Nigerian government, you know, changes the strategy, Boko Haram also adapts their strategy. Now, with the transfer of the military base in northern Nigeria, and especially in Maiduguri, in Borno State, you know, it's very difficult for the Boko Haram to win a frontal battle with the army. So what they do is, you know, they've simply changed the strategy to now use young girls, you know, as suicide bombers. But the reason why they do that is because they know that, you know, with the military force, you know, they cannot afford, you know, to confront the military at this stage, you know. So using the suicide bombing is merely a strategy and is not a weakness.
President Deby also says, you know, alludes to the fact that there could be a new leader for Boko Haram, this guy called Mahmoud Daoud.
Yes.
Do we know this for sure, or do we know anything about this so-called new man?
Well, you know, it's strange enough, you know, because, you know, we've had so many names, you know, before, you know, people that have come up and said, you know, we are the leaders of, we've had, for instance, Alhaji Kiara Abdullahi, who was said to have replaced Abubakar Shekau. We've also had Abacha Abdullahi, Gaidan. So, you know, this could be, you know, a strategy by Boko Haram, you know, to delude, you know, the government in thinking that, you know, they've actually killed Shakau. And then for him to come up later on and say, you know, he's still alive. And that would be a big blow to the government.
And just very briefly, we're running out of time, David. Do you think that there's any chance at all for negotiations between Boko Haram and the Nigerian government? Because we've heard rumors recently as last month.
I mean, there's a good chance, you know, because, you know, to win the battle with Boko Haram, you know, you need to sit down and negotiate, you know, so that, you know, you can get a long-lasting solution. Military alone will not solve the problem.
Okay. David Otto, security analyst here. Thanks a lot for talking to us.